Hey guys, Steven here, and welcome to part 3 of my bass ukulele blues course. So in part 1, we learned what a 12-bar blues was and how to play a root note bass line. In part 2, we learned how to apply a pattern to this 12-bar form. Now we're going to learn several patterns that go along with different styles of the blues, still applying it to this 12-bar form. If you're playing a blues, if you're going to a blues jam and you get up on stage with people you've never met and the band leader says, "Hey guys, it's a shuffle in G," or they say it's a slow blues in A, or a funky blues in B, what will you play? You can't just play that root note bass line. I mean, you could, but it won't be the right style. It won't be the right feel. So I'm going to give you some lines that you can play in these scenarios so that you have options when you go to a blues jam or if you end up in a blues band. So first, we're going to talk about the jump blues or the country style blues, western. If you hear any of those words, it's probably a root fifth bass line. Think Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. It has that like root fifth kind of feel to it. That's the style line we're talking about. So here, we're going to do this in G. The pattern is going to be, and that's it. So basically, we're playing the root and then the fifth of that chord, and then we're doing that a second time. Root fifth, so that we end up with 4 beats, so we have a full measure. So think of these as quarter notes passing by. Okay, so now that we've got that idea of what the pattern is, let's take it around the 12-bar form and then talk about one variation that you can do. So here we go. You remember the 12-bar form? Let's go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth measure, here we go, 4 chord. Then back to the 1 chord. To the 5 chord, to the 4 chord, to the 1 chord, to the 5 chord. Okay, so what was I doing there? I was playing a note, right? So if we're in the key of G, our 1 chord is going to start on a G note. That's the 3rd fret on the E string. That's the one I'm choosing to play. So the 3rd fret on the E string, how do we find the 5th of that chord? Well, we go 1 string thinner plus 2 frets. So that would be the 5th fret on the A string in this case. Okay, then now we're going to take that pattern when we go to the 4 chord after doing 4 times through that whole pattern here. Our 4 chord is going to start on a C note, and that's going to be the 3rd fret on the A string. If you remember from the other times, the way you find your 4 chord is same fret, 1 string thinner. Okay, so we do that, and now we're doing the same pattern to find that note's 5th. So this is a C, the 5th of C is G. We're going to go 1 string thinner and play the 5th fret on the D string. Okay, and then we go back to our 1 chord and we do that 2 times. So that was just the G, D, which is G in its 5th, right? We did that. Okay, now we're going to go to the 5 chord. And I'm breezing through these, not really going by the form, just telling you the different placements where we're putting things. So our 5 chord, as you remember before, that's the same way to find that note is how we're finding the 5th here. 1 string thinner, 2 frets up. Okay, so that's our 5 chord, but now we're going to put our index finger there, and then we're going to do that same idea to find its 5th. So D is that note. That's the 5th fret on the A string. So we're going to go 1 string thinner plus 2 frets to find the 5th of that chord. And then we've got this as our pattern. So now that we know that, let's go through this 12-bar form and play a country style blues this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure. 3rd. 4th measure. Now we're going to the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. To the 5 chord. To to the 4 chord, to the 1 chord, and ending up on the 5 chord. So if you've heard the blues, you might notice that, one, it's not always going up to a note. So you might hear something more like this when you go to the 4 chord instead of... And that keeps us in a lower range. So there are really two options when you play the fifth of a chord. So when you're doing this root fifth, we can go to a higher pitched fifth, like in that case. Or if we're not on the E string, so that means we're on our 4 chord, we're on the A string, then we have an extra thicker string that we can go to. And the way to find the fifth when you go that way, when you go to a thicker string, is it's just the same fret. So if you're playing a C, that's 3rd fret on the A string, you have two options to find the fifth. You could go 1 string thinner plus 2 frets, like we did before, or you could go 1 string thicker, same fret. Both of those notes that we're moving to are the fifth of C, because that's a G, right? C, G, G is its fifth, or C, G. So what I want to do this time is go through the same 12-bar blues, only this time when we're on the A string, so that means on the 4 chord and on the 5 chord, we're going to go same fret, 1 string thicker to find those chords fifth. So if that doesn't make sense, I'll kind of put tabs on the screen for this one because I know it's a little confusing. But let's just go through it and maybe this will make sense to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 chord, still the same thing. 2nd measure. 3rd measure. 4th measure. Now we're going to the 4 chord. C. Back to the 1 chord. To the 5 chord. To the 4 chord. To the 1 chord. To the 5 chord. Now you might notice when I went to the 5 chord, I didn't have to shift my hand this time, because instead of going here, I'm going here, which I can get to from the original position. That is how we do the country or the jump blues. So if you hear those names, hey guys, the jump blues in G, country blues in G, or western blues in G. You might hear any of those 3 names, that line will work. So now we want to talk about one of the main things that happens a lot of times in blues, and that's the shuffle feel. So I kind of hinted at this in the first lesson when I said, oh, we can do the root note lines, you can double the notes and give them this sort of shuffle rhythm. I might have said swing rhythm, but either way, you're swinging the 8th notes. That's what it's called. And that means instead of making 8th notes even, which normally we would hear them as bop, 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 they are all evenly spaced. But now what we want to do is kind of give them a stagger. I've heard it described as a limp before. So you've got long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, ba, 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 ba. So we could do that rhythm, and we could apply that to that root note bass line like we did before, and that would be a shuffle. And there are songs that do this, like ZZ Top's Tush. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. And you go to the 4 chord. You get the idea. Back to the 1 chord. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way through. You understand that idea, probably. Long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. So the thing about it is, you might go, how long do I make the first note and how short do I make the last note? It kind of imitates a triplet feel, where if you were to say triplet, the first note would be as long as the triple, and then the last note would be on the it. Triplet. Sorry, the let. Triplet, triplet. So you got triplet, triplet, triplet. But it's not an exact science. So the thing that gives the blues its feel is that that's not an exact quantitative thing. It's kind of this loose sort of thing. And that gives it the human element that makes it hard for computers to recreate believably. So, it's not an exact thing. It's just kind of like you feel it. The first note is longer than the second note, but everybody might swing just a tiny bit different. So you kind of want to feel it out with the band leader that's playing with you at a blues jam or in the band that you're in. Okay, so that being said, we're going to learn a pattern that we can apply that concept to. It's going to sound like this. So that's the pattern, and then we can play that throughout the whole 12-bar blues. So what are we doing for that pattern? We're starting on the 3rd fret on the E string, and we're using our middle finger. So this is a little bit different because our grid is slightly different here. Our middle finger is playing the 3rd fret on the E string, and then our next note is going to be the 2nd fret on the A string. And by the way, this is in G that we're doing this right now, the key of G. So then on the A string, you're going to play the 2nd fret with your index finger. So thinking about this pattern-wise instead of note-wise, you're starting on whatever your key is. Boom, you're starting on your 1 chord, okay, with your middle finger, right? Then you're going 1 string thinner, 1 fret back. So that's why your index finger needs to be free to be able to play that note. But we're going to do 2 of each of those notes because we're doing that swing rhythm, right? So 3rd fret on the E string, then 1 fret backwards and 1 string thinner. Put you on the 2nd fret on the A string. Now we're going to go to our pinky note if we're doing this grid. That's going to be the 5th fret on the A string in this case. And we're going to play 2 of those as well with that rhythm, long, short, okay? Then you're going to play the 2nd fret, 1 string even thinner, and then you're going to go back to the 5th fret on the A string, or whatever note came before it. So 3rd fret E string 2 times, 2nd fret A string, then you've got the 5th fret on the A string with your pinky, then 2nd fret on the D string with your index finger, then back to the 5th fret on the A string with your pinky. So naming the strings is going to throw you off when we move to the other chords. So I need to word it this way, and hopefully you can think about it this way. Middle finger note on your root. Then 1 string thinner, your index finger note. Then same string, now pinky note. Then 1 string thinner, index finger note. Then back to the 1 string thicker pinky note. And those last 2 notes, we're only playing 1 of each. So that 2nd fret D string, or our index finger note on the 3rd string thinner in the pattern, and then back to that 5th fret note on, in this case, the A string, but the middle string of the pattern. Those 2 are just going to be hit once, but they're still going to have that long, short rhythm. Long, short. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's play that pattern together and just get used to it. I'm going to count 1 and 2 and 3 to establish that swing rhythm. So I'm going to count to 4 and, then we'll come in after that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Fourth time. Now we're going to the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. To the 5 chord. To the 4 chord. To the 1 chord. 5 chord. So the key thing to remember is we're starting on our middle finger. So our middle finger needs to go to the 1. Our middle finger needs to go when we go to the 4 chord, to the first note of that. And our middle finger needs to shift up when we go to the 5 chord. Let's do the exact same bass line, but we won't swing the notes this time, and that'll be our rock feel. Think songs like Johnny B. Good. So Johnny B. Good, it's got a rock and roll groove, so the drums are playing straight eighth notes. They're playing that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and not long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. So it's not a shuffle. So if we do the exact same bass line that we just did without the shuffle feel, it sounds like this. As opposed to and so forth, right? So it's literally the same notes, so I don't really want to go over those again. Let's just play through that one time as a 12-bar blues, a little bit slower than that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, our 4 chord. Back to the 1. To our 5 chord. To our 4 chord. To our 1 chord. To our 5 chord. Alright, so that's our rock and roll feel. So now let's go to what we call a swing feel, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a curveball, because even though we are doing patterns that we're applying to the 12-bar blues, some patterns are longer than one measure. So this is a 2-measure pattern, and as you know, most of the time we're on our chords longer than 2 bars, so like we could do this pattern 2 times in the span of 4 measures. So on the 1 chord, we can play the whole pattern 2 times. When we go to the 4 chord, we're on that for 2 measures, so we can play the whole pattern. But when we get to our 5 chord, and then basically just the last 4 measures of our 12-bar pattern, we have to just play half of the pattern. So we're going to play the whole pattern for the 1 chord and the 4 chord and going back to the 1 chord. But once we get to the 5 chord, we're just going to play the first measure of the pattern. So let me show you the pattern so you know what I'm talking about. And we're going to use this for the swing feel blues. So if someone says, hey guys, it's a swing in C, you'll know what to do. But right now we're just going to play all these in the key of G. So here is our swing feel 2-measure pattern. It's kind of a walking blues. Someone might say walk. You would do this too over that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our pattern, right? So now let me play it through the 12 bars so you can hear how it sounds in context, and you can see what I mean by just playing half the pattern. So on our 1 chord, first measure, second measure, third measure, fourth measure. Now our 4 chord, first measure, second measure, then 1 chord, first measure, second measure. Now we're just going to do half the pattern on the 5 chord, first measure, then move to our 4 chord, first measure, then we're going to do our 1 chord, and then our 5 chord. So for those last 4 measures, we just played half of the pattern, but for the first 2/3 of the blues, 2/3 of the 12-bar form, we're playing the whole pattern. Okay, so what is that pattern? It's very similar. The first half of it is very, very similar to what we were already doing in the previous 2 patterns. We're going to do a 3rd fret on the E string with our middle finger, yet again. Then we're going to go 1 string thinner and then -1 fret, just like we did in the other pattern. That's 2nd fret on the A string, if you're not quite understanding how we got there. And then we're going to use our pinky note now on the same string. That's going to be the 5th fret on the A string. Then we've got our 2nd fret on the D string, so that's 1 string thinner using our index finger. Okay, and then now the second half of the pattern is different. We're going to do our middle finger note on this same string, then back to the 2nd fret note on that same string. Okay, then we're going to go back to the 5th fret on the A string. Then we're going to go back to the 2nd fret on the A string. And And that's our whole pattern. So once again, trying to explain it with what your fingers are doing. On our root note, middle finger. 1 string thinner, index finger note. Same string, pinky note. 1 string thinner, index finger note. Same string, middle finger note. Same string, index finger note. 1 string thicker, pinky note. Same string, index finger. And that's our pattern. So if you can think about it that way, you'll see that it's a geometric shape and that your hand mechanics are doing the same thing as we move around the 12-bar form. Let's play it together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure. Third measure. Fourth measure. Here's our 4 chord. Back to our 1 chord. Shift to the 5. Shift to the 4. And the 1 chord. 5 chord. Okay, so hopefully that made sense, that those last several were just doing the first half of the pattern. But that is what you would do if someone said, play a swing feel or a walking blues. You might hear both of those terms. And this one is called a slow blues. So a slow blues is a very, very common thing that could happen. And they would just say the same thing. Slow blues in G, slow blues in C, slow blues in B flat, whatever, right? So they give you the key and they give you the feel, usually. And even if it's a song that you've heard, sometimes I go to blues jams and it's like a really common song and I want to play the actual bass line, not just kind of focus on my defaults. But people will still tell you, oh, it's a shuffle in G, and you're like, well, you could have just told me it was, Pride and Joy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, because I would have played the actual line instead of doing this kind of thing where I'm falling on my defaults. So it's always good to learn the actual songs, but when you go to a blues jam and you're playing with people you don't know, they're going to pull songs that you've never heard before. And those songs are going to have feels that you have heard before. So it's better to have a default to doing those patterns, or a lot of times the band leader will play the pattern for you because a lot of times the guitar part does it too. So what they'll usually do is they'll do what's called a vamp before we jump into the 12-bar blues. They'll start it by themselves, and then the 12-bar either starts when the drummer comes in or when the singer starts singing. And you just kind of have to feel it out. If you go, okay, I think we're going to the 4. Oh, we didn't. Okay, I'll stay on the 1. Okay, now he's singing. That kind of thing. And if you're playing in a blues band, obviously you can talk this stuff out, so it's a little bit different there. But this is to help you for jams. So the slow blues has a 12-8 feel, and you could count it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Or you could think of it as 4 groupings of triplets. 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, 4 a lit. And I like the latter because it just helps kind of keep track of it. Then it still feels like 4/4. You just have this like pulse going on the drums behind you. 1 2 3 4. Okay, so that being said, our default line is going to sound like this. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Let's count it as 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, 4 a lit for now. So when you play the first note, you're going to play on 1. You're going to not play on the You might be holding that note out. 1 Then you're going to play another note on the lit. So we're starting on the 3rd fret on the E string and that 1 lit. Those are both going to be 3rd fret on the E string. G, G. Then we're going to go 1 string thinner, and you guessed it, to our index finger. 1 fret back. Okay. And we're going to do 2 of those there, right? So it's kind of like the shuffle. It's just now we are splitting it evenly into triplets. 1 a lit, 2 a lit. 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit. So that part is just like the shuffle, other than the fact that we're going a little bit slower and splitting it evenly into 3 parts, and you're playing the first part and the last part of each triplet. Okay, so middle finger note on the root 2 times, then 1 string thinner, one fret backwards. Okay, we're playing that note 2 times. Then we're going to go to our pinky note on the same string, play that 2 times. Now for the next 3 notes, we're just playing 1 apiece. And we're playing every part of the triplet on 4 a lit. So when we're counting 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, 4 a lit. Those notes are going to be the index finger note 1 string thinner, then the pinky note back to the middle string of the pattern 1 string thicker, and then the 2nd fret note on the same string. So let me just go through and say the frets and the string that they're on. 3rd fret E string 2 times, 2nd fret on the A string 2 times, then pinky on the A string 2 times, then 2nd fret on the D string once, 5th fret on the A string once, and 2nd fret on the A string once. Alright, so now that we know the pattern, let's just play through it with the counting. This might be a little bit tricky, but just think about in the groupings of 3, you're playing the first of the grouping and the third of the grouping. 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, and then on 4 a lit, you're playing all 3. 4 a lit. Okay, so let's play that together. 1, 2, 3 a lit, 4 a lit, 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, 4 a lit. Okay, so that's the pattern. Now we're going to go a touch faster than that, and we're going to apply this to the 12-bar blues and just play through that 12-bar form 1 time. 1 a lit, 2 a lit, 3 a lit, 4 a lit. So listening to that, you might go, there's some things missing. There's some things that I would hear differently on an actual slow blues, but I've heard this feel before. And yes, there are. We will talk about those in future lessons. Typically, there's a thing called a turnaround at the end of the 12-bar form, and that will differ from a slow blues to a shuffle to some of these other feels. Sometimes you'll stay on the 1 chord all the way through. Sometimes you'll go back to the 5 chord at the end like we've been doing. Sometimes you'll have this little walk-up that we'll have to talk about as we go. We'll save that for future lessons, but there's the blueprint of a slow blues. So here's my example of a funk feel for the blues. So that was 4 measures of the pattern. 1 measure of the pattern just sounds like this. Basically, this is a lot more complicated, but it doesn't have to be. You can play a simpler rhythm. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a challenge here. So if you're not great with 16th notes, you may just have to go by ear, which is kind of what happens at these jams, right? Someone will play a groove a few times, and you got to pick it up kind of quickly. This may be kind of hard at first, but let's try it. So we're starting with the 3rd fret on the E string. We're just playing that 1 time. And that's an 8th note, so I'm kind of keeping the note short. I'm not letting it ring out. Then we're going to go 2 strings thinner. By the way, we're using our box shape, so we're using our index finger on the root note. Okay. Then we're going up to our ring finger 2 strings thinner. So that's 2 frets higher, 2 strings thinner. Okay, so that's beat 1 and beat 2. Then we have, so what that is the index finger note now on the same string that you just did. So this is 2 strings thinner than the root note, still same string. 3rd fret on that string with our index finger, and then we hit that note again. Then we're going to go down to the 5th fret on the string in the middle. So this will be the A string in this case, 5th fret A string. And then back to the 3rd fret on the D string, and then back to the 5th fret on the D string. So finger wise, I'm going to try to give it to you in pattern talk. So we're going to play the root note on the E string. That's our index finger note. We're going to go 2 strings thinner, and then we're going to go to our ring finger note. Then we're going to go same string, index finger note 2 times. Then we're going to go 1 string thicker ring finger note. Just do that a single time. Then go 1 string thinner index finger note. And then same string ring finger note. So hopefully that made sense, giving you like what's going on within the grid. Okay, now we need to internalize this rhythm. It's kind of a weird one, right? 1, 2, E and 4 and 1, 2, E and 4 and 1 E and is how we count 16th notes. So if we're playing that first note, of those 16th notes, since it's an 8th note followed by rest, we're really just playing beat 1 there. 1 E and so we're not playing on the E and there. 1 E and then our next note is going to be beat 2, 2 E and then we are going to play on the when we play that note. Then we're not playing on beat 3. So this is what's weird about funk, is sometimes you syncopate the rhythm. Okay? 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. Okay, so that's going to be kind of hard. E and after that. And then on, there's nothing on the there. Then beat 4, we're going to play. And then we're going to play nothing on that E. Then we're going to play on the and. And then nothing on the So I'm just going to count it and play it and show it on the screen so you know how it lines up. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and or 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and so that way you can hear which ones are actually being played. Okay, and then when we speed that up, it starts sounding like this. I'll take it around the 12 bar. Okay, so usually with the funk stuff, we're basically moving the same pattern around. There's a little bit less variation, but there might still be a turnaround at the very end of the form. We'll talk about those, I believe, in the next lesson, but at least in one of the next 2 lessons coming up. All right, let's play that funky blues together. If this is too tricky for you, you do not have to syncopate it quite this much. Just know that you can use your box pattern and do something a little bit more interesting than just straight quarter notes, and try to lock in with the drum rhythm. So if the drummer's going boom, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, then you want to go like boom, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop. Just whatever you want to play note-wise here of that box pattern, aka the 4 notes that we're making this pattern out of, or the 4 notes that we made pattern 2 out of. It doesn't have to just be those 4 notes, but they work really well, so it's a great starting point. Okay, let's try to play this together at kind of a medium tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright guys, that's it. So now you have some default patterns that you can use when you're playing a country style blues, a swing feel, a shuffle feel, a rock feel, a slow blues, and a funky blues. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. Head out to those blues jams and try it out, see if it works, or just head out and listen and see if you can recognize some of these feels happening at a jam. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you on part 4 of the blues course. And please subscribe if you're enjoying this. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.